Joining us right now, Barbara Butcher is with us to talk to us about the book, What the Dead Know, Learning About Life as a New York City Death Investigator. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Just terrific, damn it.
Oh, damn, I like this. I like this funky attitude.
Damn it, I'm having a good time.
Like that. I guess when you're in that world of being a death investigator, you have that kind of attitude.
Oh,
huh?
sure.
Yeah.
You got to live, you got to laugh, and otherwise, you sit around crying all day and you're not useful to anyone.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we're doing our part of living and laughing. So, first of all, how did you get into this of being a death investigator?
Well, it was kind of strange. I went to a career counseling service, and they gave me all those tests, the Minnesota multiphasic preferential, blah, blah. And at the end of the testing, the counselor said to me, you should either be a poultry veterinarian or a coroner. And I said, why poultry? He said, well, and I had medical training at the time. I was working as a PA. And he said, you're very good at diagnostics, so you should be in the business. But you get too attached to your patients. And when they die, you get really upset. So chickens are good because they have beady little eyes and nobody cares about them.
Oh.
And as opposed to puppies and kittens, which would really get to me. And I said, I think I'll take coroner. And he said, yeah, working with the dead would be less emotionally involving. Good God, was he wrong?
Yeah.
Totally wrong. The dead have families, there's tragedies, there's all kinds of stuff. And it was highly, highly soul-crushing.
Yeah, I'm guessing right from the start. I mean, that's got to be a very shocking thing.
Yeah. Sign me up.
Well, and not to mention you do it in New York City. It's not like you're doing it in, some little town in Pennsylvania. This is you guys dealt with some heavy stuff up there.
Oh, yeah, and that's why New York is such a fascinating place. There are so many ways to die here. And it's just, you can find every single death, from the mundane to the strange. And New York's the place to do it if you want to be a death investigator.
Okay, so as a death investigator, explain what happens. Who calls you? What do you do? How do you get there on the scene? What's a death investigator do?
Someone dies at home or in the street, is shot, or just, overdose of pills, or just dies naturally. Okay. The 911 is called, the police show up, and then the police notify me of the death. And, I just go over there, and my area of specialty is the body in the scene. So the body belongs to me, and the scene belongs to the police. But without my dead body, there is no scene. So as far as I'm concerned, it all belongs to me.
What are you doing when you go there? What are they?
I take photographs first. First I speak to the head, the head cop there, and ask what's the story. Oh yeah, the daughter came home and found him, bleeding from the head. Okay. And so I'll examine the body. I'll take all my photographs. I'll look at wound patterns, and then I'll look at the scene. Are there sharp edges? Is the place filled with liquor bottles, which would indicate, alcoholism, which leads to bleeding disorders, which means that if you're an alcoholic and you fall and bump your head, you could bleed to death in a matter of an hour. So, I'm checking out the scene, I'm examining the body, I'm interviewing witnesses. And then, if I decide that this is a natural death and the person had a disease and a doctor, we'll call that doctor and say, we're going to release this to you. Or if there's anything suspicious at all, or no one to identify the body, I bring it in for an autopsy or an external examination. So my responsibility is not to find so much the cause of death, because we'll do that with an autopsy, but the manner of death. Homicide, suicide, accident, all those things.
Now, how many are you stumped with?
Stumped?
Yeah, like you get out there, it's like, all right, I don't know.
Almost never.
Okay.
I can't think of. Geez, I can't be that good. But I can't. No, I was good at my job, but I can't think of. Oh yes, wait a second. That young playwright who wrote Rent.
Brent?
He, on the night of the dress rehearsal for his new musical, he was found dead in his loft. And I had no idea what happened. I thought maybe carbon monoxide since the stove was on and there was a water heater in the back, but it wasn't that. I had fire department check it out. I couldn't find any signs of trauma on him, no medications, no drugs, no alcohol, no nothing. That was a stump one. And even, the police couldn't figure anything out. The apartment was secure. Turned out that he had been having chest pain. Now, he's a young kid.
Okay.
And he goes to the emergency room 2 or 3 times. And they say, don't worry, it's nerves. They take a chest x-ray, but they don't read it. And the damn shame of it is that if they had read that chest x-ray, they would have seen that he was having an aortic aneurysm, which burst in his chest and killed him. So that was a hard one, but and of course his family got millions of dollars because his play won the Pulitzer Prize. And now this young genius is dead because a busy doctor didn't read the chest x-ray.
Okay, again, speaking with Barbara Butcher, the author of What the Dead Know, Learning About Life as a New York City Death Investigator. And also Barbara is a contributor to the Netflix show Homicide New York. So, now, this is a bad question. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this properly. Do you become, I don't know if the word's calloused, immune, or something to it when you show up at these scenes? Is there?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Then it's not that bad of a question.
Yeah, there's a purposeful thing that we do, and that is detaching ourselves from our emotions. Look, I walked into a case where the whole family was dead, including the 8-year-old kid, and, all shot in the head over drugs that they had nothing to do with. But anyway, when I walk in and see that kid, my heart stops. Every instinct in me is crying out that, my God, a little boy is shot. And I'm wildly upset. But I very quickly slam down like a shade of detachment, because otherwise I'm no good. Yeah. I can't do my work if I'm crying and feeling the terror of this child. So in order to, help, in order to do my job well, I shut down. No feelings. Now the bad part of that is it's kind of hard to turn them back on again when you get home, especially when your husband, wife, or partner says, how was your day? Oh, listen, before I forget, you got to paint this kitchen. I can't stand this color anymore. Could you get those tickets to Florida? I want to go down there for Easter. I'm thinking, God.
Yeah.
You know what I saw today?
Yeah.
So, but that's not fair. That's not fair to your partner. I mean, they didn't sign up for this.
What do you do to? I hate to say it, but what do you do to decompress? Because eventually you have to kind of let that go a little bit, I imagine, or you just live a miserable life.
Absolutely. Early in my career, I was watching the autopsy of a child who had been murdered, and I asked the pathologist, how the hell do you stand this? How can you see things like this every day and still live and enjoy life? And she advised me that I should surround myself with things of beauty every single day. Music, art, love, food, people. Anything creative and beautiful to counteract the death, despair, and destruction that we saw every day. Now, at first I said, that's some hippie kind of, advice there. And I didn't pay much attention. But soon I learned she was right. I got myself a little cheap house in the country that I could work on and rebuild, and a dog and a cat and a backyard with trees in it. And that helped so much. Look, I'm still a mess, but, at least I'm an aware mess now.
Yeah.
So here's how many people in your profession, I hate to say it, but turn to alcohol or something like that?
A very substantial number.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, I had gotten sober before I got the job. Otherwise, I would have been a hot mess.
Okay.
But I have to say that, especially during 9/11, there was drinking, gambling, affairs, and cheating, and everyone was a mess. It was too overwhelming. It was too much. And people, for relief, would turn to, something not good for them. And that was really, really hard. And, back then I told my boss, I said, we need some kind of counseling, some kind of peer group support. Everybody's going crazy. And he said, no, Barbara, we're the strongest people on earth. We do this kind of work because we can. We're powerful. We're strong. Boy, was he wrong. Mm-hmm. We were a mess.
Oh, man, I'll bet. All right, so 9/11. I mean, you're talking going to places, and you're just identifying parts. You're not even identifying people.
That's right.
So what are you doing there? I mean, how do you do that?
Going down to the pile, being the rubble, the acres of burning debris, and we're picking out little body parts, and just picking them up and putting them in bags and bringing them back to the medical examiner's office in a truck. And then I'd work what we call the line, which is like a group of tables with forensic anthropologists and investigators and scientists. And we're opening these bags and picking out what is real flesh, what is food versus what is rock and cinder. And we're cleaning these little pieces of flesh and passing them to the DNA team, passing them to people who will, microscopically at least figure out what this piece of flesh is. Now, one night, I opened the bag. Another bag came to my table, and inside it was a heart, a human heart, a set of car keys, and a man's penis. And I was like, what the hell? Like, how are these things related? How did they come together? And I still can't get that image out of my head. That's all that was left of a person.
Unbelievable.
That's
crazy.
It is. Hey, I'm talking about certain things like this. Were you, I don't know what years you worked, but were you involved with the Epstein death?
No, I had just retired, but my sidekick at work, he was now head of investigations, and I called him that morning. I said, Epstein's dead in this jail cell. It's supposed to be a suicide. He said, I know, I'm here right now. And he said that it was definitely a suicide, and I believe him. Now, there was all kinds of hinky things going on there at the same time, like, removing his roommate, taking him off 24-hour watch, the corrections officers in his unit falling asleep. There was some crazy stuff going on there. But it was a suicide.
Huh.
A justifiable one, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Man. But it kind of, maybe it was kind of benign neglect to let it happen. I don't know. There's lots to think about there.
Yeah. You have lots to think about. Barbara, so what do we discuss in the book? And the book is out and available now. It's called What the Dead Know, Learning About Life as a New York City Death Investigator. How do you, brief synopsis of the book?
I started out to write my adventures, the crazy cases I did, the things we solved, the things we didn't. And then my editor said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm right here." He said, No. Where are you in the book? I need to see what you saw and feel it and smell it and taste it. I said, all right. And I went back and wrote it again. And this time I put in my feelings, my experience, what happened to me, what was good, what was bad. So it became something of a memoir of a life in crime. And so, yeah, it's all about my adventures and how I got there, but it's also about what happens to the people who do this work.
Barbara, what do you do now?
Well, after the book, I started writing a novel, but right now I'm working on, I'm going to have my own podcast called Body of Evidence. That'll be a weekly show. And then I am working with NBC, with Dick Wolf, on developing a show about crime scenes, how we investigate them, what we learn, and going over some interesting cases. So we start shooting at the end of October. So yeah, I'm doing a lot of very cool things right now.
You are. Yeah. Okay.
I'm having a great time.
Wow.
What hobbies do you have? What is a hobby of yours?
Well, I like robots, not the electronic kind, but mechanical. And I just moved to a new apartment that's got a big walk-in closet. And rather than put my clothes in there, I put my little tools in there so I can make robots. And why not?
That's so cool.
Good for you.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, it is certainly, I'm sure, a very, very interesting book. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but it is called What the Dead Know, Learning About Life as a New York City Death Investigator. Amazon, the best spot, or do you have a website for it? Where should we send it?
Yeah, it's everywhere. Bookstores, the paperback just came out, so there's plenty in the bookstores, Amazon, Simon & Schuster, my website, BarbaraButcherOfficial.com. And, you can find it just about anywhere now. It's doing pretty well.
Well, good for you. Barbara, I appreciate your time this morning. Get back to those robots, and good luck with this. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Great to meet you. Bye.
Likewise.